Kayan here, and I am back with another one of my old travel journals, a memory keeping journal of a trip that I took. This one is from Minnesota trip in 2016, and as you can see, it is a chunky book full of memories and fun things. I did a bunch of little fun features in this one. The cover is made from a Reader's Digest condensed book cover that I have covered with gel printed deli paper and made this pretty cover. And I have made a lot of these journals in the past. I stamped some metal on the front and that I attached to the cover. And the inside I put, I don't know that these are available anymore, but this 2-ring binder by Ranger. I think it was in a Tim Holtz line of journaling things. As you can see, it's overstuffed and it's actually kind of starting to tear through a little bit. So I don't know, I maybe need to put it in, divide it into 2 books. I'm not sure, but for now this is it, and I just thought I'd take you on a little trip through it. So as usual, I like to have a pocket somewhere that I stick my little goodies as I collect them. This one just has, looks like a paper shape in it. By the end of the trip, they don't always have anything in them, but during the trip I stick some ephemera. This is, looks like a Lake Superior playing cards that had scenes in it, which is cool. I must have used some of the rest of them elsewhere, but that's what's left in there right now. So this was my kind of title page, and I used this postcard to decorate the page. I love vintage postcards, and they, whenever I can get like a reproduction vintage postcard, if not an actual vintage one, I like those. And this was Minnesota Vacation Days in July 16th through 31st of 2016. So just jumping right in, I like to put, include a little picture of our travel. So there's our route from Kansas to Minnesota that I've included in there. And we had a daughter move to Minnesota, and so we're going up to visit her, and took a trip in July thinking it would be cooler in Minnesota. So as I often do, I have these, I have little tabs for each day of the trip. So day 1, irregardless what the date is, I just numbered them. Days 1 through, what was the last day of the trip? 11 looks like, maybe. So this one has lots of fold outs. So here I made a little fold out thing again. I tried to do as much as I could on the trip. A lot of the photos were added later though, and the finishing touches added later. So this is a fold out about starting out on our trip. The kiddos that went with us, I like to include the vehicle that we took. We had a big white 15-passenger van pulling a vintage canned ham camper for this trip. I put Off Like a Herd of Turtles. That's something that my father always used to say as we were getting ready to leave for a trip, and so that's kind of become a family saying for us as well. So I had to include my little turtles there. I think that might be an image I would include for my patrons, now that I look at that again. I did take some brads and some paper clips. Those are handy, take along bits to have, especially if you're wanting like all these little moving parts and such. This was probably a trip snack that I stuck in there. This, I know we stopped at Caribou Coffee and I really liked their design. This was my husband bought me a cup from there that was of the same design, but this was actually the coffee, the paper coffee cup that was served in, and I just actually cut that out and flattened it and made a little coffee cup out of it. And some more bits of that coffee cup paper used here. As much as possible, I like to use things that I gather on the trip. I just think that's more meaningful. This I know was, this polka dot print was from a napkin. We went to a Trader Joe's. This was a snack we bought there, I think, for the trip. We ate at this 5-8 Juicy Lucy, where the hamburger has cheese inside of it, so that was cool. These are some skeleton leaves that I found on the trip that I thought were really cool. And this was about a bike ride that my husband took. I often stick this as a leftover one in here because I don't know if I was going to journal or what here, but I have this little sticky note that I would often stick in to remind myself what all I wanted to cover later. We took a trip to Blick Art Supplies. I believe that was probably maybe in Kansas City or maybe it was in Minneapolis. Can't remember. That would have been in Minneapolis. Izzy's Ice Cream was a fun stop in Minneapolis. My husband and girls took a bike ride. This is a Russian restaurant that we went to that was very interesting. And they had these menus, so I just included the whole menu in here. It was a very interesting meal. This is a photo that I took of the place and a photo of our food. So that was a fun and interesting meal. And this was just various little memories. I made this little cutout. I had some things were made ahead that I took along. And this was just a little cello envelope sleeve. And then these were some places we visited. And I just put them on these little, to make kind of like tongue depressor type looking sticks that just slide in there. If I can get them back in. Yep. A little journaling about those. I loved the store junket Tossed and Found. It was so many fun things there, and I took a picture of some of the things I brought back with me. And I love the variety of pages. That is one advantage of using a binder style travel journal, is that you have more flexibility in your pages. In fact, like there's this little business card that's just in there by one little hole. This we took a rest time because it was so hot in this, so I had this little book page illustration that has this guy all sweaty, hot and sweaty, and so I included him in there. We went to a place in Minneapolis. I think this is actually in St. Paul, called Raspberry Island, and we kept seeing all these people out and about. And this was just when Pokemon Go was really getting popular, and we didn't realize at first what all these people were doing, looking at their phones, and kind of wondered what was going on. And that's what they were doing. We figured out later was that they were playing Pokemon Go. This is from like a travel brochure image here. And this was a houseboat. There's a whole bunch of houseboats along the river. That was a new sight for us, being from Kansas. This was us riding the bus in the city, and a map of the city. a Dunn Brothers coffee stop. Here we are with on a city transit bus. And this was going to Minnesota State campus, and a postcard from there. We ate at Einstein Brothers, and I loved the campus bookstore, and they had this whole wall of pins. It was like so cool. I'd never seen anything like that, where it's the whole wall of pins. We went on campus to the Wiseman Art Museum. That's what this postcard was of. This, we left a bag on the city bus, and this guy got off. The bus driver waited while this guy got off and chased us down to return it to us. And it was so kind. It was, it gave a good feeling about, you know, the city. You always hear how unkind people are in big cities, but he was very kind in doing that. A White Castle hamburger stop. Wasn't actually impressed, but it was interesting to see that. Another place we ate here for breakfast. Went to the Minnesota Art Institute. That was a very fun experience. Uh-oh. One of my little goodies has popped off. I'll have to glue that back on. Here's some of that deck of cards that had different scenes. So that was kind of fun. We went on up to the North Shore after we left Minneapolis. Here's a little sketch I did along the road. I was so impressed with these huge, tall trees along the roadside. This is the place we camped at. It was near Beaver Bay. Here's our little vintage camper and our camp setup. And the outhouse accommodations. This was a photo I took along the North Shore. It was just so gorgeous. My husband's sitting on a rock on the shore, and I have a little envelope here stuck in that I have little extra photos that I didn't have room for stuck in it, little memories. Did I journal on the back? Sometimes I journal on the backs of the extra photos, but didn't look like I did. This is a fun little flap out thing. That's a fun way to have extra photos from what actually would normally fit on the page. There's my daughters on the lake. Another fun thing to do was just have the full page photo. Again, that's an advantage of the flexibility of these binder rings. You can just punch holes in anything and put them in. Here I collected a little bit of the rocky, it's not really sand, it's fine little small pebbles from the Silver Bay shoreline. I just made it look like a jar here, holding those. And I kind of tried to frame this next photo so that you could see it through the jar. Another full page photo. I think this was intended to be an illustration or a photo that didn't happen. So it's just still got its little sticky note in there. This is a card by an artist that's popular in the area, and I loved her artwork. So I just included that in here and did a little bit of journaling too. It says, we were told that a black bear named Boo Boo regularly roams the campground, so we were careful to not leave out any food for Boo Boo. talked a little bit about the artist whose artwork this is. Minnesota state bird, the mosquito. A little tongue-in-cheek there. Very true, though. We did have a big battle with mosquitoes. This was a little painting I did of the Split Rock Lighthouse, just on a piece of watercolor paper. Again, I can have a variety of papers in this style of journal. And there's a photo of the Split Rock Lighthouse. And it looks like a little brochure or postcard, maybe. Betty's Pies. And Two Harbors. We went and visited another lighthouse there, and this really cute little tugboat. I would like to paint a picture of that. I may have to go back and do a photo. Agates, again, another postcard. I included some fun little dangles on my tabs in here. This is a church we went to on the trip. This is someone's art, and I put their website here, but that was from Gooseberry Falls, which was a really fun place to visit. And this whole little fold out is photos from Gooseberry Falls, and I even have some sand glued in from there. So that was really fun. Fun memories. And this was from Palisade Head. Another photo, another little fold out to have some extra photos in there. And then on to Grand Marais. We're on day 10. They had a really cool harbor there, and we really had fun looking around in Grand Marais. Some more scenes from there. Oh, this was fun. I had some little fish images that I cut out and put on here. We ate at a fish market, and they had all these fresh local caught fish, and so that seemed like a fun opportunity to stick those little fish in there. Here's another batch of stuff that didn't get finished, which is why I don't like to wait till I get home to finish my journals, because this is what happens. But I do have the little sticky notes here with the things I had intended to talk about. So the memories are still there. Just didn't get it quite done. Another postcard. Oh, this is, we were on a boat ride, and we had so much fun trying to take selfies and laughing at ourselves, and that was a fun time. Temperance River State Park. And this was a falls area where people jumped off into the pool, even though apparently there was a sign. This was a boat we took a little cruise on. Another vintage style postcard. I do need to divide this into another book because it's hard to turn these pages. It's just a little bit too stuffed. So on our little cruise we took around along the North Shore, we got some other views like of the Split Rock Lighthouse and some of these cliffs. It was very interesting because we heard a bunch of stories about different shipwrecks and things like that. It was very interesting. Here is another. We took a little jaunt while we were close up into Canada, and I know that's information on that. These paper clips are handy. At least it's kept things in place to be recorded later. Here's another little pocket full of, day 12 here, full of little ephemera from our little jaunt into Canada to Thunder Bay. And we stayed in a motel there. And this is another little fun thing to make, to put photos in. It's just a little fold out. Looks like it didn't get quite done either. So these are all the, oh, here's our, what did they call these fries with the gravy and bacon on the fries? Very interesting. If anyone knows what those are called, let me know. But the idea is that I would have put this ephemera or done the writing on these little fold outs and these little cards inside. And obviously that has not been done. But again, at least it's all together there. But also a good example of why it doesn't really work well for me to wait till later to get things finished up. So at least it's still all there together for me to look at. I think this little pink flag is to say you need to work on this page. Here is some map I like to include. I'm not sure what this, I think maybe this is, I'm not sure what this was for. I'm sure I had a plan. This was a little bit of actual birch bark that I made this little canoe out of. Talked about some of the things we learned about the native people in this area and some of the trade things that happened. Here is a little one of the stack of stones typical that they made to mark where they had stored their supplies. Some more photos waiting to be finished up. And this, I think, was a illustration of a story or like a legend we were told. We went to amethyst mines and it kind of had something to do with that. And I may have written down here on the little sticky note. But not sure. Anyway, it had to do with our trip to the amethyst mine. And then this is some Canadian coins that I brought back. I have in my little piggy bank here. You can see that I was very into these little like shaker card things on this trip. Day 14. Okay, there's been more days. Oh, I remember this page. This is actually one of my favorite here, and that is this loon page that I made. We did finally see a loon. The whole trip I had wanted to see loons, and just before we crossed the Minnesota state line into Iowa, we saw a loon on a lake. So finally got my wish to see a loon, and made this little bit of art and used some brads to make moving head and wings on my loon. So that was fun. And that's it. I have some more. Another pocket here. I think it had been, looks like it had been in the binder and it was just too fat, so I ended up sticking it in the back. I'm not sure what the key is for. Not sure. There we are eating our Izzy's ice cream. A Canadian flag sticker. Some little journaling cards that I didn't use. And a postcard of Betty's Pies. And some extra photos that I apparently didn't use. Now I'm pretty sure that I printed these photos when I got back home on this trip, because I did not yet have a photo printer. And I'm pretty sure I just made the spots for them to go because I knew what photos I was going to have. I'm not sure the significance of this key. I guess I will stick it back in here for now. I think it was probably just decoration, but I'm not sure. So there's an example of a journal. Not quite finished, but still does a pretty good job of recording the memories from that trip, and certainly has a lot of little fun features here. I have a tie here to help it be contained because it is a little fat one. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time.